What's up, my fellow lionesses and lions? Welcome to the Project Lioness podcast, where we are here to disrupt the mainstream narrative when it comes to health, holism, and human consciousness. We are here to share bold truths about health and life from a female perspective. This episode is brought to you by our team, Inspire Co., where we stand for your health being inspired by choice rather than being inhibited by chance. Thank you for being here and joining in on these raw, real, and powerful conversations. We hope our show brings you inspiration and empowerment to overcome challenges, reclaim your life, and ultimately pursue your mission with power, purpose, and play. Now, let's get into the episode.
And just an illusion, a blip of time anyway.
Aren't we all? Is this recording? Did you press the big red record button?
It's on right now.
This is, I don't know, this is quite the thing.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. There's
All
a lot of buttons on that.
I don't know what they mean.
I don't know.
All those buttons on the side. Because you can press like intro, record, outro, and then never have to like edit it.
Testing 1, 2.
All right, you ready?
That's probably too close. I think so.
You're picking up. You're number 2. You're picking up just fine. You talk loud enough anyway.
On the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Project Lioness podcast. Today I am joined by
Michael Krug.
My brother, if you haven't figured that out. It's been a while since you and I have been on a podcast together. I don't know. For those of you who are OGs out there, Michael and I started the Inspire Life podcast many years ago and since have created multiple branches off. I know Michael has his own podcast. I have this podcast, Project Lioness podcast, but the tenets and the themes and the core values are definitely the same and of course have evolved and expanded over time. So I wanted to bring Michael on today to talk about entrepreneurship because him and I are both entrepreneurs. We own multiple businesses and we work with entrepreneurs on a regular basis to help them build a business and life that is in alignment with their values without sacrificing their health and well-being. And I thought it'd be really valuable for us to have a discussion about that and some of the myths or beliefs or paradigms that entrepreneurs have, especially when they're just getting started, as well as some things that you can take away from this episode and start to focus on now that are going to get you one step closer to what it is you're creating, not only for your business, your life. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you. That was a great intro. I was just remembering the Inspire Life podcast too. I think we started that in 2019 and
we did not have this fancy technology.
Retired it in 2022, I believe. So yeah, it's fun to see. And yeah, with the entrepreneurship, I think it's a great topic. I think it's an interesting topic because I think there's perceptions about what it is and then there's like the reality of what it is.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that. Yeah. And y'all listening to this, you may see, okay, we started a podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple. There's reels that we're making. And I think some people can get caught up in the fantasy realm of, wow, that looks so cool. I want to do that too. Wow, owning a business sounds so cool. And then they get into it and they don't realize what it takes to actually build it sustainably. So I'd love, Michael, for you to kind of catch us up to where you have been over the past year to 2 years, because for those of you who don't know, Michael used to work in Inspire Life with me. He really helped me build Inspire Life to what it is today. And since then, we have branched off into many verticals as well as different businesses underneath our Inspire Co. enterprise that we're building, our company. Michael's wearing the hat today. Shout out Inspire Co. Shout out Jeff for helping us make the logo. But I thought it's been 7 years since Inspire Life was born. And Michael was in the practice for a number of years until we've hired Ashley, and she's been on for 2 years, which is really exciting. So what have you been up to over the last 2 years from, the perspective of building your business and your life so we can catch people up and then we'll get into it?
Cool. Yeah, so the last 2 years, I'm a board certified health coach, which most people hear that and they think I'm either a nutritionist or a personal trainer. And I don't really do either of those. I have a couple personal training clients that I do work with in person, but for the most part, what I do is have conversations to help people develop sustainable health habits. I primarily focus on working with people who are busy, a lot of parents, a lot of working professionals with demanding jobs, and doing it in a way that is in alignment with their values and what it is that they want to do. So in the last 2 years, I think I should go back actually to when I started. So if you haven't heard my story, I share it a lot on social media. If you follow me, you can definitely check it out. But I was very, very unhealthy, quick, spark notes. So I was 375 pounds. Blood pressure was high, cholesterol was high, depressed, all sorts of stuff that's not so good. I got healthy, and then people saw me get healthy on social media, and they started reaching out to me asking for them to help them get healthy. So I started doing health coaching without knowing what it actually was, and a lot of the actual important things about health coaching that you need training to be able to do, motivational interviewing, those types of things. So I started just helping more as like a consultant. I would call myself a health consultant when I started. Then I realized health coaching was a real thing. It was right around the time I was moving back. I finished school in Winona, moved back to the Twin Cities. This Inspire Life had just kind of started, and you made a hire initially that didn't work out, and then I came in and started working. I think it was within like the first month and a half Inspire Life was open. Mm-hmm. And then I was working here, and at the same time, you actually financed me to do my health coaching certification program. So I started doing that right away. I think I started that in 2017 or 2018. I can't remember. But anyway, I started getting certified in that. Was working with 1 to 3 clients on and off for a couple of years from about 2017 through 2020, and then it started to pick up more. I got board certified in 2020. I started taking it more seriously. Again, I was still working here, and I'm actually, when I look back on it, I'm really grateful that I went through those steps and that my business, and then I went full-time in January 2022 when we hired Ashley, and I've been full-time for myself since. And I'm really grateful that I was able to have it be an experience where the coaching was kind of a side hustle, and this was like, the main gig for one, to be able to grow Inspire Life to a point where we could scale it and hire other people to take over the systems and procedures and do a very phenomenal job with that. Yeah. I think that was very beneficial for me to learn a lot of the behind the scenes, to be able to understand what it takes to create a business like that's actually a business and not just, a
hobby.
Yeah, not just a hobby or just like winging it and doing things by the seat of your pants, like the importance of having structure in a business. I think that's something that a lot of people who get into it forget about. I'm also grateful because as I was coaching, I fell more and more in love with doing that. And I got to a point where I didn't want to come and sit behind that desk anymore. Right? Which I think that's fair. Evident. Right. And I think for a lot of people, to just jump into something with not even a backup plan, but a way to pay your bills. Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. Getting baptized by fire, so to say, probably isn't, I don't think that's going to work well for the majority of people. So being able to have a quote unquote side hustle that I really enjoyed doing and to build it up to a point where I could, pay all my bills, meet my needs. And then once I did go full time, it just expanded from there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was a lot in that, 5 years that I worked here that was really beneficial for me. And I still obviously am a part of Inspire Co team and help with some certain things behind the scenes that some of you might not know about. Yeah. And that's the way it goes. But so then the last 2 years, it's just been health coaching. I've gone through a lot of trial and learning on how I work with people, how my programs are structured, what I offer in my program. And literally just this month, I feel like I finally got it all together. And again, I've been doing this since 2017. I've been doing it myself.
Wait, it doesn't just happen overnight?
No. My goodness, no. And I finally am at a point where I feel so good, not only about what I offer, but the results I can get people and how it flows and fits into my lifestyle. It took me a long time to feel like I'm finally at a point where all right, we got it. Yeah. Figured it out.
You're the it only took experiment.
7 years. Yeah. So, but yeah. That's what I got.
Thank you for catching us up. You know, you said a couple important things in what you shared that I want to highlight that we'll get into in this episode. Number one, like these things, yeah, you got to get your sparkling water. Oh. That's for sure.
This episode is not brought to you by Spindrift.
They're not.
But I'm going to take a drink of it anyway.
These things don't happen overnight, and I think that's something that a lot of people maybe see people quote unquote blow up, but they don't realize all the work and all the years behind the scenes that it took to build momentum. So that's something we'll dive in today is a myth and a paradigm that I think people need to dismantle when it comes to entrepreneurship. And you also spoke to the importance of not just quitting everything and going 100% in. Now, you can do that. Your nervous system might not appreciate that as much, but I think it's okay for those of you who are starting out to like keep your day job.
I think it's important.
It's important. Like we live in a world where money is a thing. You've got rent to pay. You've got a mortgage. Maybe you have kids. And if you put yourself, unless you are working off of a loan, like I did, it's important to make sure that your basic needs are met so that you have enough brain power and creativity to work on the business, whether that's over lunch, on the weekends. Like we have a client in our Inspire Alignment coaching who he was definitely working outside of his working hours to build up his clientele. And then eventually when that income replaces this other one, that's when it's important to be like, all right, it's time to make the shift.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's other benefits to having it start as a quote unquote side hustle. One is like the more you get into it and the more you love it, kind of like I mentioned with my story, is like if you don't enjoy your job right now, it's going to be fuel on the fire to keep working on this thing and like re-inspire you daily. Like fuck, can I swear on this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like fuck, I just clocked out. I don't want to go there tomorrow, but I know I have to because I have to pay the bills.
Yep.
That could be some inspiration and motivation to continue to work on the thing that you're really truly passionate about. And there's different ways to have that inspiration. If you take out a loan too, and you're like, holy shit, like I don't want to have to declare bankruptcy, so I should also probably work hard.
I mean, I think
there's different ways to get you into action, but I like the side hustle route.
And I think it's okay to be. I think some people are like, but it's got to be in flow and feel good. And I'm here, like Michael and I are here to tell you that entrepreneurship does not include or involve feeling good all the fucking time. Okay, it's important to feel inspired by what you do and fulfilled. But you're going to have challenging days. You're going to have challenging moments. I mean, Michael and I had many moments where him and I would go back and forth on whether it was something we were dealing with individually or as a team and just work through that stuff. And we're here to share with you some of the real truths behind entrepreneurship so that when you hit those moments for yourself, you're like, oh, there's nothing wrong. I'm just having a contraction. Like I see people, they get a little bit of momentum and then all of a sudden their family doubts them. I'm like, congratulations, you hit your first roadblock. Now you're actually in the game of entrepreneurship. Keep going. But back to your point around having a healthy level of pressure is okay. For Michael, it was no longer feeling inspired, not necessarily by our vision, but the way that he was contributing to the vision. And him and I are both definitely visionaries, entrepreneurs. We're the first entrepreneurs of our family. I think we have entrepreneurial energy in our family, but we're the first people, as far as I know,
to act on it
and like start LLCs and actually make a living off of it. But it's okay to have some level of like, I don't like my job, and it's okay to actually want more for your life and not be the person who goes to a shitty job every day just to save for retirement in hopes that you'll be healthy enough to experience life.
Yeah.
So let the discomfort actually be fuel, where eventually the discomfort turns into inspiration. Now, I think if you hate your business, that's a whole nother thing that we maybe don't have time to talk about on here. But if you hate your business, it's probably number one, how you're running your business, and two, you're not fully connected to your vision and your mission. So I'm glad that you brought that up because it's important to have a little bit of pressure. Like for me, I took out a loan, and my mom co-signed on the loan.
Yeah, put her house up.
She put her house up for collateral. And to me, that was enough to fucking work my ass off. And I paid that. It was a 5-year loan. I paid it off in a little over a year because I was determined to not have my mom's house disappear.
Yeah, that would be shitty for her.
But it's okay in the beginning. Like you're gonna you're going to grind a little bit more. And I think I talk about nervous system regulation, but I also like to speak to when you're brand new at something and you're working on things, you're going to have moments of grinding. Like you may stay up a little bit later than you want. You may work over the weekends. So anyway, I have a couple points I want to hit with that with both of us, but just want to reiterate, it's okay to have some level of motivation from pain so that eventually pleasure can be more of the pull for you and not live in so much of the push and have it be more of a pull. So I don't know if there's anything more to add to that.
No, yeah, I think that's very well put. Pain and pleasure can both be motivators, and sometimes the thought of short-term pain can be a big motivator, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Or maybe you put some investment on a credit card and you're like, well, 25% interest does not feel good, so I'm going to commit and invest and then pay it off.
Yeah, right.
I've done Michael and I have done versions of all of these things.
I haven't done the credit card thing. I've never paid a cent to credit card debt. I never will.
I've never paid
interest. Yeah.
I've never paid credit card debt, but I've put things on credit cards.
Interest? You never paid interest on credit card? Okay.
Nope.
Good.
I've always paid it off. That's a standard of mine.
This is not a conversation. This is anyway.
No, we digress. So let's talk about, because you work with different clients than I work with. We also have a group coaching program called Inspire Alignment Coaching, where we help entrepreneurs and business owners do the things that we're talking about. That's not actively open at this time. We can drop the application in the show notes, but we are building that very sustainably and working on very intentional enrollment in that and working with people who are really committed to growing. So again, it's not open. This is not like a sales pitch for it, but if you're curious, we'll drop the application in the show notes and see if you're a good fit. But we want to talk about what are some of the myths and paradigms that new entrepreneurs maybe live into that we want to break for you, and then give you some other ways of thinking about things as you enter this world.
Yeah, definitely. So what's the question? Where are we starting?
We're just talking about specific things that you hear from your clients, maybe or friends who have wanted to start a business and they have maybe an illusion of how it's going to go versus like a reality check.
Yeah, well, there's a couple perspectives. One, there's this idea that being self-employed, which I consider myself self-employed because right now I'm basically a solopreneur. I have someone who helps me with certain things, but it's mostly just me. So I think understanding the difference of like being self-employed to being a business owner, those are two very different things. And I think that going self-employed is a good stepping stone to create then the business that you own, right? Like people think that because you own a business, like you have all this time or whatever it may be. And that's completely false. Like I work 7 days a week. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have to. I literally just wake up inspired by what I do every day. And I choose to work every day. And when I say I work every day, it's not like I'm working 80 hours a week. I don't work 80 hours a week. That sounds fucking terrible. Like when I work on weekends, it might be like an hour, maybe two. A lot of times it's just certain things like behind the scenes stuff, like updating spreadsheets, checking on all automations, CRM stuff, whatever it may be. Like there's a lot of little things that, again, if you are going into especially a service-based industry, so if you're a chiropractor, if you're a health coach, a fitness trainer, like it's not just me having conversations with my clients. That's like a minimal fraction of what you do. So just be ready for that it's not, your service is fantastic and it's fun, but like get prepared for like a lot of other stuff. A lot of people don't think about having a marketing strategy and what that's going to look like. A lot of people don't think about having sales and having to learn what a sales process looks like and how to make, closing sales and all that. A lot of people don't think about things like follow-up that, they just assume like, all right, I got this certification. Where are my clients? Like it doesn't work like that. And a lot of people don't think about the behind the scenes stuff, which again, why I'm grateful I got to work here for quite a while and I got to see a lot of that and go to seminars and trainings with you to learn about that. And I think I would say as much as you're focusing, because in our alignment coaching, we work mostly with service providers. And no matter what you're doing, whether it's a product or a service, like start to learn about those other things as soon as you possibly can.
And even if that means, doing something like an apprenticeship or an internship, you'd be surprised at how many solopreneurs are out there who maybe need some help. And maybe instead of you working for money, you can kind of be behind the scenes or sit behind their shoulder, so to speak, to see how it's done, and almost like a mentorship program.
If you're a board certified health coach and you want to be an intern, hit me up because I could use a little help.
Yeah.
I'm just really going to throw that out here.
And doing it, maybe you're not even paid, but you get the experience, right? You get the value of learning. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. You said something.
It's going to cost me more than it's going to cost you.
Yeah, because
right?
you're training them.
I'm not even going to pay you, but I'm going to be giving you my time, which as a self-employed business owner, that is the most important asset that I have. And I'd be willing to trade some of my time to help you out.
Yeah.
For free. I'm not going to pay you.
I want to highlight something you said. I think the one myth I'm hearing is, oh, when I own my own business, I'll have all this time and I won't work like a 9 to 5. And the truth is you're probably going to work more as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. You're going to trade working 40 hours a week for someone else to work 50 or 60 hours a week for yourself.
In the beginning.
And it's, I say the word work, like a lot of times the contemporary idea of what a job is, like you go to work, you clock in, and then you clock out. And like, how many of those hours are you really working? There's been studies done where it's like the magic ratio, I want to say, is 4 to 1. So like 80% of the time you're working while you're at work, and then 20% of the time while you're getting paid at work, you're like socializing with coworkers or, taking a shit or whatever it may be. Right. So like
on Facebook.
And I think you can use it as a similar lens, like as a health coach, like it'd be easy to look at my schedule and say, oh, like this week you had, 9 client sessions plus your group call. So you had 10 hours of work. I'm like, fuck no, dude. You have no idea all the behind the scenes stuff. Like, just little stuff you wouldn't even consider that takes time. It's like tracking mileage. It's, updating my social media calendar. It's scheduling social media posts, creating those posts, creating the podcast, creating, videos for my online course. I'm always updating that. It's prospecting, my goodness, like spending time on social media or going to networking events. Like there's a lot of different things that, again, it does constitute work, but I think for me, it's nice because like, I can't tell you how many hours a week that I work, but because I'm so passionate about what I do, I'm almost always thinking about it. Like it's hard for me to go out and do anything and not have my business and what I'm doing be at least in the background thinking about how I'm going to make a decision.
Yeah,
right?
or how you can, I totally agree. Or how you can optimize systems, or maybe you get a creative idea that you want to do in the shower. And I think what Michael and I are speaking to is don't go into it thinking that you're going to have more time. Eventually, if you choose to go from solopreneur to business owner to CEO, you will have more time because you buy your time back via hiring. Yeah. You give up some equity in your company, you hire employees where you pay them a salary, you pay them payroll. Obviously, I think Michael's probably getting to a point where eventually you're going to have to delegate some tasks. But
I'm there.
Michael and I, you're there.
Yeah.
This is not a hiring podcast, but maybe it is. I don't know. But you get to a point where we rather don't tell or consult or coach people on things unless we have actually done it.
Right.
So the systems that inspire life, I know those systems. I'm sure Michael and Ashley probably do them way better, but I know them, right? Dr. Aaron knows them. Michael knows his systems. So if you're brand new, don't fall to the illusion of like, I'm the founder, I'm the CEO, I shouldn't be doing these tasks. It's like, no, in the beginning, you're doing all of them, do them well enough, love them so that eventually you can delegate them to someone else and delegate the lower priority tasks so that you can be more in that visionary mindset, which I feel like this year I'm finally stepping more into because my team is growing.
Right. Yeah. You talk about the perspective of time with being self-employed or owning a business, and like there's this idea like on social media, like, oh my gosh, like just balance and all this stuff. I'm like, there is balance, but I think it's different than what people think.
It's like, in the mind. It's not like I have my social life and I have this and it's balance in your mind.
Yeah, like
I find.
Well, and just like your balance isn't, I work for 4 or 5 days and then I have 2 days off. Your balance is going to be, I fucking work my ass off for 5 or 10 years. And then the 10 to 20 years after that, maybe I can have some systems in place to help with it. It's a whole different perspective on what balance is. Balance isn't, I worked hard this week, so I'm going to just get fucked up on Friday and go to get mimosas on Saturday and watch football on Sunday. Because I don't do that shit. You don't do that shit. Like, I'm working at that time when people are doing that stuff. And this maybe, I don't know if people are going to resonate with this, but like my balance is, okay, I am two and a quarter years into working for myself. If in the next 7 3/4 years, I get to the point where I have a fully scaled business that I'm very happy about, that I still can oversee some of the procedures, I call that a success. But I know that for the next 7 3/4 years, I'm still going to be working my ass off. Thankfully, I'm very passionate about what I do, so a lot of times my work feels more like play. Mm-hmm. That's my perspective of balance, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to create something over a 10-year time frame that will become an asset that will be able to be leveraged in the future.
And that, I think, is the shift.
That's balance.
Yeah, no, and that's the shift, and it's important to talk about. That's the shift from being a 9-to-5 to being an entrepreneur, is thinking in forms of asset, not just time, but what you're building. Mm-hmm. Not like, oh, I work 9-to-5. It's like, okay, you may, as you said, work every single day a couple hours. Michael and I are also inspired by our health, so we're also not the entrepreneurs who are burning the midnight oil. Granted, in the beginning,
I sleep like a baby.
Granted, in the beginning for me, there were definitely like nights that, I was up. And sometimes that.
And I get up early. I get up early some days, like 4:30 or 5, and start working before the kids and stuff wake up. And that's one of the benefits of being self-employed and having a business, is like, if I want to, I can wake up and start working at 4:30 a.m. on a Sunday, which I do regularly. But that also means I'm going to get those hours back to hang out with the boys and just whoop their ass in Super Smash Bros.
At 1 p.m. in the middle of the day,
exactly.
Right? But it requires you to be super disciplined. If you're your own boss, it requires you to be super disciplined, because oftentimes there's no one, watching you clock in.
No.
And to your point, you've got to be inspired by what you do. And what I find with entrepreneurs and business owners, whether you're in our group coaching or you're a private client of mine, is when you're not inspired by what you're building, that's where you hit that like 5 to 7 year burnout as an entrepreneur, because either one, you're not truly inspired by it, or you're going about it in a way that is not in alignment with your values.
Yeah.
And it's really important, if you want to build a business, but you also value family time, then you need to be realistic with how fast you think it's going to actually grow versus the reality of it. Mm-hmm. Like if you are someone who values spending time with your kids over an hour of prospecting, then you need to be realistic with yourself of how fast you think your business is going to grow. And for me, I came out guns a-blazing from chiropractic school, which is why I hit, $20K in my first month of opening, almost $20K. But that's all I was doing, to the point where there were nights I wasn't sleeping. What?
I was going to say, and never mind.
Yeah, don't go there. or go there. You could go there.
No. Making geometrical shapes out of stuff. That's all I got. I think a quick caveat too is we're mentioning the idea of a 9-to-5, and that's not a bad thing. I think it's super important, because I don't think that entrepreneurship or even being self-employed is for everyone.
No. No.
I knew I wanted to do this ever since I was slanging bottles of Phillips alcohol in high school, right? I've always enjoyed figuring out unique ways. Or when I was in fucking college and I would write people papers and they would pay me in money or chewing tobacco, right? I literally I've always had these different little things that I've enjoyed doing and just being creative with it. And there's always been inherent risk.
Of legality.
So, yeah, that shit was super illegal. Whatever. Come get me. I don't care.
You were the original AI.
No, I wasn't. I'll never forget, actually, the first time I ever let a customer down, I felt so fucking bad. I told this guy I would get him, I always had a B+ guarantee on papers I would do, and I guaranteed him to get a B+, and he was actually a freshman and I was a sophomore, and he was in the intro to psych class. I was like, this will be fucking easy. And they just completely changed it up on me. I was like, holy shit, I don't know what to do. And I ended up getting a C- on it, and he was fucking pissed. And he paid me $100 and something for this. I was like, well, there's no refund policy. I didn't say that, but I felt so bad about that letdown, and I don't know. I don't think that's shaped me and how I work with my clients, but I do take so much pride in the way that I work with my clients, and my ability to get them to help them see results. But yeah, that was a learning thing is like you can't always please everyone.
Yeah. And the point of over delivering,
yeah.
especially when you're new, you've got to over deliver if you want, any form of them getting results and leaving you a testimonial. I knew that you did that. I didn't know at what capacity you did
One of my
that.
best friends, I wrote an autobiography for him about his life. Got an A on it.
That's a story that you need to save for the stage. Like when you get invited to speak at an entrepreneurial seminar, hey, let me tell you about money back guarantees.
Oh shit. Yeah. No, that's yeah, so I always knew I was going to go this route. When I started doing the coaching, I was actually in grad school and I was like, I can help people out who are reaching out to me. And I started doing that. I was like, this is kind of fun, right? So like, I knew I was going to go down this path and it still took a while, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and it didn't happen overnight. So, yeah, working a 9-to-5 job, and especially too, if you're working for a company that you feel inspired by, if you're bought into their mission and everything, like that's an important thing too. Like, entrepreneurs can't do everything and entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. So there's balance to all of it.
And right? That's where you've got to ask, that's where you've got to ask the question of what do you want? If you want to spend more time with your family and you want to impact people's lives, is there a way in a form that you could start to get access to that now, maybe set stronger boundaries with your work? And then the times that you have where your kids are sleeping, you work on your business that you're building 1 to 2 hours a day. It may not be an 8-hour sprint, but that's okay. And you've got to look at what are you willing to sacrifice now so that you can make those gains down the road. And that might mean you wake up half an hour earlier to work on a little bit of stuff before your kids get up, right? Otherwise, when are you going to do it? Probably not at your job. And you may be thinking...
Or maybe...
Yeah, or...
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Yeah, you did it here, but I knew that you were doing it. I think it's valuable. Again, you got to ask what you want. And I think breaking down the illusions of thinking that entrepreneurship is going to give you what you want. If you're happy with your salary and you get, 3-day weekends and time with your kids, then, maybe there's other ways that you can make an impact where it's not starting a business. But I think the most fulfilling thing that I've seen in entrepreneurs is the ability to build something and put in so much work and effort to then have it produce a result for someone else on the planet is like the most rewarding thing. And again, if you want something else, you've got to consider, well, maybe there's a way you can get that with having a job. So I would definitely agree with Michael that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And it's important to understand some of the myths that come with that so you don't get caught up in the hype. You don't get caught up in the illusion of where you think you should be versus being real with where you're at today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think what you're speaking to as well is what we obviously talk about in alignment coaching is being aligned with your values as well, right? So, I value time with my family. I value health and fitness, which, coincidentally, that's what I do for a living. So it's kind of nice. Like, when I go to the gym, I'm like, yes, I'm working on myself. And I understand that this is going to help me because I'm always experimenting with new stuff because then that's things that I can transfer to my clients and help them out. Yep. So like, it has to be aligned with your values. And, maybe you value building a business and you have a family, but you don't value them. And then you just say, fuck them, right? I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I think probably morally there's some issues with that, but if it's in line with your values, then you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Well, I saw one of my mentors that I used to follow a lot in chiropractic school. He said, if you say that you value, let's say your health or your family, but your entire schedule is business meetings all day, that is a direct indicator that you're actually not of integrity with what you're saying because your actions and oftentimes your calendar will tell you someone's values. So if your kids' family time, date night, working on your business is not actually on your calendar, then it's probably not a priority. But it can be easy, I find, for people to be like, I want to grow my business. I want to work on this. I'm like, okay, where is it in your calendar? Where's your focus work time? I mean, every single Tuesday, I have 90 minutes, and you can all look at my calendar. I probably screenshot it on Instagram. I have 90 minutes where it says zone of creation. And granted, I do more than that, but it's set aside time for me to do these things to grow my business. Because if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. Michael and I have a 15-minute to half an hour call, CEO, CFO call every single week to check in on things. So maybe we're already going into points, but if you're brand new, you've got to set aside time.
Yeah.
I've been working with a client. He's moving from, a very well-paid position to entrepreneurship because it's really part of his legacy. And he keeps feeling the pain if he doesn't do it. And I said, okay, when are you working on the business? He's like, I'm like, schedule it in your day, an hour every day. And since he's done that, the level of like breakthroughs and creativity and momentum that he's gained, and even opportunities to teach at workshops now, he's like, this is fantastic. I'm like, yeah, and all you're doing is an hour a day. And you don't get distracted. You don't let other things get in the way, and you treat it like an appointment for yourself. You treat it like a fucking doctor's appointment. Maybe not me, but like a very important appointment, because you have to consider, if I don't fulfill upon this, what is at stake when it comes to your livelihood, your fulfillment, your mental health, even those of you who have families. If your kids see a parent or a parental figure who is constantly depressed, constantly anxious, constantly bitching about their job, how do you think that's going to benefit them in the long run? So what's it worth to take half an hour to an hour a day to start to work on this thing that you've been talking about so much? Now it's time to put it into action and actually have it be fulfilled upon.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just went on like a tangent.
No, I love
TED
that.
talk there, but the importance of navigating like your energy in space time.
For sure. Yeah, and if, failing to plan is planning to fail. That's what I say all the time with my clients.
Yep.
In many different ways. So.
And it requires that discipline of actually not having interruptions. For those of you who have kids, you may have to get creative with this. Maybe they're at school, there's a babysitter. Sounds like Michael. I mean, I know the boys are older, but waking up before they get up.
Yes, that's not most days. I work from home, and
I'm just giving options for people.
For sure. And I mean, they go to school, so I've got their entire school day every weekday to just get stuff done.
Yeah.
So, and then they also go, they're my stepkids, so they go to their dad's house every other weekend. And you can ask my fiance Jess, it probably drives her nuts at times, but usually those weekends I'm working a lot.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's valuable, you bring up a good point, to also be real. If you have a partner who maybe is not an entrepreneur or sees you wanting to step into this realm, you've got to be real with them and say, hey, this is what it's going to take. And you may not know what it's going to take, and we're telling you what it's going to take, and you've got to have real conversations with your partner so that you guys don't get resentful at each other. And that's something Ben and I have talked about, where I will let him know. I say, hey, it's going to be a long day. Like, it's going to be a 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. day. And because him and I have a shared vision for our life, he sees how me spending an extra hour teaching at night benefits us. In the beginning, it wasn't always like that. And he would get maybe angry or resentful until we actually created a shared vision, where now, if he has to spend time late at work, or I'm working on something over the weekend, even a Friday, like he was home today and I said, hey, I'm going to do a podcast, but he understands the power of this work for me and what it means for our life. So you've got to create those connections for your partner and your family and your friends. And they may not, here's the thing, you guys, they may not get it, and that's okay. And they may not understand. They can at least support you. They may not know what it takes. They may not know everything you're carrying, but if they can support you and see how it links to the benefit of their life and your guys' shared vision, it's going to be way easier. Because I've worked with clients on the opposite side where their partner is not supportive, and it's very challenging to get a business up and going if you don't have support. And if it's not from your partner, find people, coaches, mentors, friends, colleagues who do support you and are in this game with you. Anything to add on that?
No, I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to talk about starting points?
Sure.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. So we've broken down some myths, some illusions, getting real with yourself, also not judging yourself for the timing of it. If you've got all the time in the world, that can also be a negative, because you think you have all the time in the world, so you actually don't spend time on it.
Yeah. So,
what is
for
that,
example,
Parkinson's law?
It
takes the amount of time it takes is the amount of time it takes. So if you give yourself an hour, it happens in an hour. If you give yourself 10 hours, it happens in 10 hours.
Yeah. I think, and then when that's the case too, it's really easy to schedule things and be like, oh, I can just do that tomorrow, and then shift it in your schedule. So
because you don't have enough pressure on you.
Yeah.
Healthy pressure.
For sure. So definitely, if you're going to schedule things out, like, commit to it, like, do it. something I tell my clients is when you schedule workouts into your week, when you have that time scheduled, again, treat it like it's your highest priority and you can't cancel it. I was like, and then when that time comes, you have two options. Okay, you can work out or you can do nothing. You can sit and look at a wall or a clock. Okay, and if it's 30 minutes, I guarantee you after sitting there for 3 minutes, you're gonna be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go do it. So do the same thing for yourself. If you have 30 minutes, if it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, you're like, I have this time where I can either A, work on my business, or B, do nothing. And like nothing, not like scrolling your phone, not even looking outside, like look at a fucking wall or look at a old school clock. Just watch that time tick. And eventually you'll be like, all right, I'm just gonna take action. That works for me. It's kind of intense, but.
Yeah, that's your nature though.
I'm a kind of an intense individual.
Fire.
I have like the demeanor and like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, it's a pretty chill guy, but I'm not that chill. I don't got chill most of the time.
It's fine.
Maybe that's changed. Do I still come off as a chill person?
Yeah, I think you've become more intense, but I don't see it as intensity because I think you and I share a same vision for humanity. I always joke that Michael and I have lived many lives and we like somehow came into the same womb. You guys think I'm intense? Fucking hang out with this kid.
I'm just chilling most of the time. Don't listen to her.
I think people mistake inspiration and a desire for transformation on the planet with like, you're too much, you're too intense, because they haven't tapped into their own intensity and vision. You know, like when you connect with people who have a vision because they've gone through enough pain and trauma and like the opposite of it. I mean, I just think some people haven't lived through enough shit to have enough intensity to be like, I desire different. And you and I have both lived through some shit, man,
for sure.
That is undeniable. And so for those of you who don't know where to start, we're going to get into some points, but to wrap this up, who don't know where to start with your own personal story and consider, why do you feel called to build something to support people? Because most of the time that comes from our voids. Our voids, our pain can be transmuted into your greatest gifts. And Michael and I have both been able to do that. And that's why when you get around us, there's no stopping us. Like try as you might, we're going to fall down. We're going to deal with challenges. We're going to deal with roadblocks. But because we've lived through so much shit and learned how to turn the shit into flowers, whatever the saying is, right? The lotus grows in the mud. My invitation is explore that for yourself, right? And know that there are people out there who have probably gone through something similar or experienced similar pain and problems where you can be the vessel of hope that actually guides them. And when you can connect to that within yourself and connect that to the service you provide, there's no stopping you. You are certain on every sales call. You are confident on every lead reach out because you know there are people on the planet suffering who you could help. So if you're struggling with that, I invite you look at things in your childhood that you experienced that you don't want other people to experience. And if you want a training on that, Michael and I have our Inspire Academy, specifically the Inspire Co. We walk people through how to connect with their mission and their vision and their purpose. So if that's something you're curious about, I'll drop it in the show notes and you can join us. And we do a lot of trainings in that and so forth. So let's wrap that up and go into like, what are some points that people can start with if they're brand new or just starting, startup, growth?
Yeah. So you asked me to think about this question a couple hours ago and I could only come up with one point.
Great.
So
keep it simple.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is you just need to start. I think the thing that stops most people from seeing any success in business, in their passion projects, is the simple fact that they never get started because they're waiting for something. They're waiting for, if I just got that next certification, if I just had, if I just had the right financing deal for this, if I, just had the enough time, like when
things settle down, it's like, when are they going to settle down?
That's my favorite meme on the internet.
No,
like,
you need to choose. Sorry.
I was just saying my favorite meme is adulthood is saying, oh yeah, things should settle down next week until you die, right? So like, But for real, like the only thing I could think is like, you just need to get started. It's like, I've had conversations with people who even some people I've ended up working with, but they're like, yeah, like, I'm just thinking, I'd love to go to the gym, but I just kind of like, I just want to drop like maybe 20, 30 pounds first. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, how the fuck do you think you're going to lose weight if you're not fucking working out? Like, let's be real, right? And it's like, if I just could have this or that, and I can't think of any more examples, but it's like, you're never going to know unless you start to try. And I don't care if you're 22 years old, if you're 32 or 42, like, you have runway to work with. Even if you're 52, you can still make something happen, right? And it's like, you're never going to know if you don't try. And if you don't try, you're only going to be left with what could have been. You're only going to be left with the thoughts of, you know what, I held back and I didn't do that and I decided to play it safe. And that sounds shitty to me. Like, I can't imagine, being 80 years old and thinking back and being like, what if I would have just, taken whatever was given to me rather than trying to create something for myself. And you're never going to know unless you try. And that was the only point I could think of, because again, you don't learn from reading books or for listening to this podcast. You don't learn from information. You learn from action. That's the only way to actually learn. So that's the only point I could think of, is just to fucking do it. Right. And yes, you'll get some ideas from this podcast, and you can listen to other podcasts or read books to get ideas, but you're not going to actually learn until you do it. Mm-hmm. So that was the only point I could think about. Just fucking do it.
Yeah. And maybe we can, for the last couple minutes, dissect like what are some healthy action steps. And I love what you said, because I 100% agree. And I love what you said of like, yeah, learning comes through failing.
Right.
And you will fail when you take action. And failure is really a consciousness. When you perceive everything as a lesson and everything as a feedback loop and an experiment, you really can't fail. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not failure. You're just, I was a goalie. Michael and I were both fucking goalies. Isn't that? I
wasn't very good, but she was.
I mean, and how often I let in a goal and I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to do it better next time. Because as a goalie, you can't live in the past. You've got to move forward.
I think goalie, just a quick side tangent, is like the perfect real life metaphor for what it means to be a leader, because you get none of the praise when you do well, and you get all of the blame when you don't do well. And that's what leadership is. Right? I was thinking about that yesterday on my walk. I was like, being a goalie is legitimately the epitome of leadership. But anyway, so for tangibles,
and you lead from behind. Like, I was the captain. Of the team in soccer, and you lead from behind, where you're orchestrating everyone up there to make the goal who gets the praise.
Yeah.
But like, you're like leading from behind.
Yeah, and then if you get scored on, it's your fault, right? Yeah. So anyway, I think, it depends on where you're at. So if you don't know what it is that you want to do, I think figuring out what is the problem that you can solve in the world. Mm-hmm. So obviously we work with service providers. I'm a board certified health coach. You're a chiropractor. So we're in the health space, but there's a lot of problems out there that legitimately need to be solved. Like, it's funny because I'm in, the health coaching world, and I'm in a lot of these groups, and people are like, it's oversaturated. There's too many coaches. I was like, if health coaching as a profession was oversaturated, why the fuck do we have a 45% obesity rate in this fucking country? If anything, the fact the number keeps going up is telling me that we need more health coaches, right? So that's a perspective shift, and just one from the health and wellness sphere. But like, there's a lot of problems out there. Like, I can look out and see, okay, there's Christmas lights on that tree, and it's fucking February 16th. Someone needs to take those down. Okay, so like, there's a lot of different problems that need to be solved in the world. I would start to figure out what are the problems that you want to solve, and then B, figure out how can you solve them.
Yes.
Because that's all a business is. A business at the end of the day, and I was having my conversation with my 9-year-old stepson about this last night, because he wants to start a business. I was like, what's your business going to be? He's like, well, I was thinking I might do some like health stuff and then like car parts. I was like, all right, we're going to learn about like, we solve one problem first, right? But anyway, it's like,
start with one thing.
What is the problem, A, that you want to solve? Because I think at the end of the day, if you're going to be dedicating hours upon hours, days upon days, weeks, years of your life doing this, you got to enjoy it.
Yes.
Like, otherwise you're just going to be left in a cycle of resentment, and then you're going to have this acid, this thing that you fucking despise, right? So anyway, 1, what is the problem that you want to solve? And then 2, how are you going to solve it? For example, with what I do, like, obesity and weight loss, type 2 diabetes management, and heart disease prevention, right? Like, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You could go get Ozempic. Not saying it's right or wrong. It's wrong. And there's a lot of different ways to solve this problem. There are personal trainers, there's nutritionists, there is just health coaches. So, like, I've figured out over time the way that I like to solve it. And again, thinking maybe about your own experience, problems that you've solved for yourself. Because that's going to give you a lot of insight as well as credibility in the marketplace that you know how to solve the problem. So what I offer, and one of the biggest feedbacks that I get from all my clients, is that my approach to health and fitness coaching is very different than anything that people have done in the past. So what is the problem that you want to solve? And then how do you want to do it?
Yep.
That'd be some good places to start.
Yeah. And then eventually, that was great. Michael's not a fan of Ozempic. I'm not either. Eventually, as you speak that out into the world, I'll add to what Michael's saying, kind of a step 2. Your frameworks will come. Like Michael and I have multiple frameworks now, but when we first started, we didn't have frameworks. Like, I had to figure out frameworks in the office. And since then, I've come up with multiple frameworks that I'm creating. But eventually your clients will kind of give you the framework, right? If you listen to them and you get feedback from them. Really quickly, side note, it is really important that the problems that you're solving inspire you. Yeah. Otherwise, if they de-inspire you, you're going to get burnt out, you're going to get resentful, and then you're going to wonder why your business isn't growing, because your business will not outgrow the consciousness of the leader. So most businesses will cap at the leader's consciousness. So the more that you can live in a state of awareness and inspiration and evolution, you want to choose challenges and fears that inspire you. And that goes with even if you're not an entrepreneur, choose fears and challenges that inspire you. Otherwise, the universe is going to slap you upside the head with challenges that de-inspire you. That's like the name of the game. You cannot escape entropy in the universe. You cannot escape it. Chaos and order are constantly ebbing and flowing. It's a law of nature. And so why not choose the challenges and choose the fear so you become the creator of your universe and not become victim to your circumstances? I was just saying with a client or someone the other day, I was like, yeah, I chose to go to Costa Rica, and I'm choosing the challenges that come with that because it's inspiring, because on the other side, there's going to be 20 of us having an amazing experience, and it's all going to be worth it. And I've learned so much along the way. So to add what Michael's speaking to, 1, figure out what problems you want to solve. Start with 1, right? Even if you got to be conscious. If you're not a doctor, be very mindful if you're working in the health space. If you're not a health coach or a doctor, be just super aware of what you're saying you solve. As a chiropractor, I can't say that I'm going to cure your anxiety. I can say chiropractic can help with anxiety. So just a caveat there. I know a lot of chiropractors listen to this. A lot of people in the health world listen to this. Also consider, if you are working in a different position, consider where you already have strengths. I was talking to a client about this where she's stepping into her business where she helps people with systems and procedures. And we helped her connect what she already did in corporate America to then take those gifts and bring it into her business. I'm like, you've already got so much expertise. Now we just need to transfer it over here. So consider where your strengths already are, and you just learn how to transmute that into a vessel and a container of working with people. So off of the problem you're solving, the framework of how you bring people through will come, like point A, point B, point C. And then also consider your network of people who are maybe people who are already reaching out to you, asking you questions. As Michael said, he had a bunch of buddies. Ask him, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? How'd you do it? When I started getting into chiropractic school, people would ask me, can you check me? Can you check me? Can you check my neck? Will you crack my neck? Right? And eventually it turned into like, all right, guys, I'm opening up a business. There's going to have to be an exchange here. And that's where I started with my beta clients. They were paying me $35 a session. They would either Venmo me or write me a check in mom's basement. And that was that until I got a credit card processing system. So our point is, like, again, solve a problem that inspires you. 2, look at your community. So you got to start with problem, like what's the problem you're solving, and then people. And then eventually you get to a level where you build systems and procedures and you scale, and it's a repeatable process. When you can build a repeatable process that gets results again and again and again and again, that's when you actually have a true business. Mm-hmm. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, true business is when you have systems and procedures that can run whether you are a part of those systems and procedures or not.
Yep.
Right? So,
yep.
I think at Inspire Life Chiropractic Center, we've done a phenomenal job of building that out.
Yeah, the business runs now whether I'm here or not. I mean,
Yeah.
Dr. Erin just had her highest week of visits that she's ever had.
Yeah, and I think that was for me too. With back to when I went full time in 2022, is like we were at a point with the systems and procedures where like I think Jess had stepped in a couple times and we're like, dude, we're good to go. Like we can easily.
It just ran itself.
Yeah, like we can. This can like my job here is not necessary. How can I leverage that time again? Because I was already doing it over lunch. I would do it on weekends, right? How can I leverage more time towards growing? And I will say that leap of faith was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, to put it frankly, so just
I think it was scary for both of us.
Well, my business account, I had saved up $4,700, and I had 2 clients under contract who were paying me like $220 a month or something. And I bought a $5,000 program literally right after I quit here. I spent, again, not my personal finances, but I spent all of my business money that I had spent, like 2 years trying to build, and I had minimal expenses, obviously. And I just threw it all out there. And I was like, all right, put my back against the wall, but it worked out. And I would say too, being able to invest in your business and approaching it like an asset and something that you're going to put time and money and energy into is huge. Like me, just since 2022, I've probably spent over $30,000 just on coaching and different types of things to help me with my skills, right? I think investing into your own skill set as a business owner, whether it's perfecting your craft, you can't perfect, whether it's getting better at whatever it is that service you're providing or whatever it is that you're doing, product development, and or just getting better at the skills of business that you don't get a manual on, has always paid off for me in tremendous ways. So that was kind of scary. I guess I did put that all on my credit card.
I mean, you had the funds to pay for
it off right away.
I think you thrive in a little bit more intensity than maybe the average person. I think we both do.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that you guys need to like drain your savings by any means. And I think it's okay to have a little risk involved, right? Because then it holds you accountable. And
for sure,
that's also another flip that you've got to make as an entrepreneur is stop looking at things of like, how am I going to pay for this versus how am I going to deliver a level of service and value to the world to actually have it pay for itself?
Yeah.
And that's a flip. And that's from Dr. T. Thank you, Dr. Rewire, where you ask basic level questions versus CEO level questions is how do I produce enough value to my clients and to people in the world where it's just going to pay for itself?
Yeah. And I think that was the point I was actually going to say before I started talking last time. So thanks for bringing that back up is like, if you are just focused on creating a business to make money, you're probably going to fail.
Yep.
You need to focus on providing the best level of service or the best products to the marketplace, things that are going to help solve their problems in a fantastic way to remain relevant and like to actually focus on helping people.
Yep.
I don't need to dive in too deep into that one. I don't think it should be pretty self-explanatory.
No.
Like,
and helping people does not mean saving them.
Oh yeah, that's
like
actually a good point too.
Michael and I talk. Maybe I talk about this more with my one-on-one clients or my social media, but something we teach in the Inspire Alignment coaching group is, and maybe this was recently I said this in one of our classes, was people will appreciate when you teach them how to solve their own problems, how to transform their body, right? But you don't need to be the savior. You don't need to fix them. It's teaching them how to become empowered in whatever form that is to you, whether it's health coaching, chiropractic, business coaching, helping moms have less chaos in their life, right? Teaching people is really empowering. They're not necessarily looking for someone to save them. They may come at you from that perspective, like, oh my gosh, help me, save me. But at the end of the day, what they're looking for is for someone to lean into their life and teach them and empower them so that they can become their leader in their own life.
I love it.
Cool. Anything else?
No. This podcast episode brought to you by Peace Coffee. French roast, dark roast. Not sponsored by Peace Coffee, but delicious.
And all right, y'all. Well, like I said, I will drop some links in the show notes when it comes to the application for our Inspire Alignment coaching, which is all about, again, business and entrepreneurship and helping you build a business and a life without sacrificing your health and your well-being. And we do have a training called Launch Blueprint. So if that's something that is sounds interesting and sounds like where you're at when it comes to going from zero to generating your first 10K, let us know, comment below, or hit us up. Me and Michael and I are both very active on social media. We're happy to share that free resource with you.
Yeah, hit me up too.
Yeah, because we know what it takes and we know what it's like to not know where to start and to feel chaotic and to feel like there's so much coming at you, especially in social media today. So we put together these frameworks to help you go from 0 to 10 and beyond in a way that is inspiring and fulfilling and feels like there's organization behind it. So if that's something that you're interested in, or you're curious to, hey, what is it like to start my own business and have accountability in that, be in a group of people that really lift each other up, let us know. We'll drop that in the show notes.
Cool.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Project Lioness podcast.
Peace.
Thank you for joining the Project Lioness podcast. Did you find value in today's episode? Help us impact the lives of others by sharing this podcast with someone you know who would resonate and benefit from the Project Lioness message. Excited to hear more? We invite you to subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. And we'd be so grateful for you to leave us a review about what you enjoy most, as well as what you'd like to hear more of. Thank you so much for all of your support. Sincerely yours in power, purpose, and play. Dr. Mel with the Project Lioness podcast. Keep rising, keep roaring, and keep inspiring.